You know that feeling, right? That pit in your stomach when you check your pay.
Yeah.
It's landed, but a big chunk is just gone before you even paid a bill.
Yeah, it's a horrible surprise.
Yeah,
And it feels like there's nothing you can do. Money just vanishes from your earnings.
it really is a financial emergency, and most people, honestly, they don't know how to start it.
Exactly. Creditors have these ways, sometimes pretty hidden ways, to grab money right from your paycheck. Sometimes they need court approval, but, and this is the scary part, sometimes they don't. You might have already agreed to it without realizing.
Right. And that's what we're digging into today. We're looking at how creditors actually do this, assignments, deductions, all that, and, really importantly, how one specific legal move can, well, slam the brakes on it instantly.
We've pulled together some key ideas from Peter Francis Geraci's work, specifically from the complete book on bankruptcy. The aim here is really clear. Understand how these paycheck reductions work so you can avoid that financial cliff edge and know what steps to take, like right away if it's happening.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting with what the source calls the voluntary trap. We need to sort of separate the two main ways creditors can take money. First up, wage assignments.
Yeah, and voluntary, well, it's a bit misleading, isn't it? Most people don't consciously sign up for this. It happens when you take out certain loans, payday loans, installment loans, those high-risk internet loans especially.
It's just buried in the fine print somewhere.
Pretty much. You sign the contract, maybe thinking it's standard stuff, and you've unknowingly given permission for them to take money later if you miss a payment.
And if you do miss a payment, how much can they take?
They can usually grab up to 15% of your pay. And it's not just once. These assignments often run for about 4 weeks, but they can renew them. You're supposed to get a warning notice.
But by then, it might be too late or close to it.
Exactly. The clock's definitely ticking.
And that 15%, it's calculated in a way that hurts more than it sounds, right?
Absolutely crucial point. It's 15% of your gross pay. That's your total earnings before they take out taxes, health insurance, 401k, anything.
So the money you actually live on, your take-home pay, sees a much bigger percentage disappear.
Way bigger. Since most of us budget based on our net pay, losing 15% off the top can completely wreck your finances for the month. It's often much more than 15% of what you actually have available.
That's a really important distinction. Okay, now, the source material singles out internet loans, calls them the worst. Why specifically them? Are they just better at hiding the clause?
It's more about how they bypass the courts. With many internet loans or, these really bad installment loans, you give that wage assignment permission right at the start.
So they don't need to sue you.
No. No lawsuit, no judge, no judgment needed. If you default, they just contact your employer with that signed agreement and start taking the 15%. It's incredibly fast.
Wow. And they often have super high interest rates, too, making default almost inevitable.
That's often the model, unfortunately. The high rates make it nearly impossible to keep up, so they basically count on being able to use that wage assignment.
Okay, so that's the assignment route you voluntarily agreed, even if you didn't realize it. Now, the second way, wage deductions. This is different, right? This involves the courts.
Yes, this is the more, let's say, traditional path. A creditor has to actually take you to court, file a lawsuit, and win. They need to get a legal judgment against you.
And once they have that judgment,
Then they get a court order, often called a wage deduction order or garnishment order, and they serve that on your employer. Your employer then has to comply by law and start withholding the money.
is the amount the same? Still that 15%?
For most private creditors, like banks or credit card companies, yes. The cap is generally the same, up to 15% of your gross pay.
And how long does that last?
It usually runs for about 10 weeks at a time, but it continues until the full judgment debt is paid off. So unlike the assignment, which might need a renewal, this keeps going based on the debt amount. The key difference is they had to go through the whole legal process first.
Right. So 15% seems like the magic number for private debts, whether assignment or deduction. But what about government debts? Taxes, student loans, do they play by the same rules?
Absolutely not. And this is where people get into real trouble assuming that 15% limit applies to everyone.
Yeah.
The government operates under completely different rules. They're the heavy hitters.
Okay, let's take a big one first. The IRS. Back taxes. What can they do?
If you owe the IRS, forget the 15% cap. They can take a much larger chunk of your paycheck. The exact amount depends on your filing status and dependence, but it's often drastically higher than what a private creditor can take.
So potentially devastating.
It can be, yeah. They have immense power to collect far beyond standard consumer protection limits.
And it's not just the IRS, right? What about student loans?
Student loan agencies, especially for federal loans, also have significant power. They can garnish wages, sometimes without a court order, depending on the loan type and circumstances. And famously, they can take your entire federal income tax refund.
Ouch. Any other government agencies?
State agencies, too. If you owe for things like unpaid state fees, fines, or maybe state-backed loans, they can often go after your paycheck as well. These government debts, they really require a different level of attention because the collection tools are so much stronger.
Which logically leads us to the solution. If all these different entities can come after your wages, how do you stop them? All of them.
The sources point to one primary powerful tool: the automatic stay that comes with filing for bankruptcy.
The automatic stay. Explain what that actually is and does.
Okay, so the moment you file a bankruptcy case, Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, this thing called the automatic stay goes into effect immediately. It's a federal court order.
And it stops.
Pretty much everything. It instantly halts all wage assignments, all wage deductions, even from the government, like the IRS in most cases, and it stops any ongoing lawsuits related to debt collection. It freezes everything in its tracks.
Instantly, like the minute the case is filed.
Yes, instantaneous.
Yeah.
Your attorney typically notifies your employer right away, providing the case number.
And the employer has to listen. They can't say, well, I already got this deduction order.
They absolutely have to stop. It's federal law. The automatic stay overrides any prior state court order or wage assignment agreement. If they continue taking money after being notified, they and the creditor could face serious trouble with the bankruptcy court. Sanctions, fines. It's taken very seriously.
Wow. Okay. So it's a hard stop. And I think you mentioned before, sometimes money already taken might be recoverable.
There's a possibility, yes. It depends on timing and specifics. But if money was deducted from your pay very recently, say in the last paycheck cycle, but your employer hasn't actually sent it to the creditor yet,
It might be possible to get it back as part of the bankruptcy process.
it might be. That money could potentially become part of the bankruptcy estate, and under certain circumstances, you might be able to claim it back using exemptions. It really highlights why acting fast is so important. The sooner you file, the more protection you get.
Okay, this sounds powerful. But what about those debts that bankruptcy doesn't easily wipe out? Like you mentioned taxes, maybe recent student loans, child support. If you can't discharge the debt in, say, a Chapter 7, how does filing still help stop the wage garnishment?
That's a great question, and it brings in the difference between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 aims to wipe out eligible debts quickly. Chapter 13 is more like a reorganization plan.
So how does Chapter 13 help with something like back taxes that won't go away?
Okay, even if the debt itself isn't dischargeable, Chapter 13 stops the aggressive collection, like the wage levy. Instead of the IRS taking a huge chunk, that tax debt gets included in a court-approved repayment plan spread over 3 to 5 years.
So you're still paying it, but on more manageable terms.
Exactly. The monthly payment is often much lower than what the IRS levy was taking. And importantly, for certain priority debts like taxes, Chapter 13 can stop penalties and interest from continuing to pile up while you're in the plan. It puts you back in control under the court's protection rather than the creditor dictating terms.
And presumably, once other debts are wiped out by the bankruptcy, maybe through Chapter 7 or managed in Chapter 13, it frees up money, making it easier to handle those non-dischargeable ones anyway.
Absolutely. Clearing out credit card debt, medical bills, payday loans.
Yeah.
That frees up significant cash flow. An attorney might then even have a better chance negotiating with, say, the student loan provider or the IRS for a more reasonable payment arrangement after the bankruptcy gives you breathing room.
It makes sense. Now, the sources also mention some protections outside of bankruptcy. What are those?
Right. There are a couple of important limits on wage garnishment baked into law. One relates to child support.
How does that work?
If you already have child support being taken from your paycheck, other creditors might be blocked from taking more if the total garnishment would exceed that 15% gross pay limit. The law often prioritizes child support payments.
Okay, so that's one shield. What else?
There's also a low-income protection. Basically, your wages cannot be garnished by regular creditors if you earn less than 30 times the current federal minimum wage per week.
What does that work out to?
With the minimum wage at $7.25 an hour, 30 times that is $217.50 per week. If your weekly gross pay is below that amount, standard creditors generally can't touch your wages via garnishment.
That protects a lot of part-time workers or people in very low-paying jobs.
It does. It provides a crucial safety net. But there's a catch.
I knew there would be. What's the catch?
If creditors can't garnish your wages because you're below the threshold, or maybe because of the child support rule. They don't just give up.
What do they do instead?
They'll often switch tactics and go after your bank account. They get a court order to freeze your account and seize any money in it up to the amount you owe, which can be just as crippling as losing part of your paycheck, sometimes worse.
And the automatic stay from bankruptcy stops bank account freezes too.
Yes, it does. It stops all collection actions, including bank levies or freezes. That's why it's often described as the comprehensive solution. It covers wages, bank accounts, lawsuits, everything.
Let's make this real with that example from the source material, Chris's situation. What happened there?
Chris's story is pretty typical, unfortunately. He kind of ignored the debt problems until it was too late. A creditor sued him, got a judgment, and bam, the wage deduction order hit his employer. He started losing 15% of his pay.
Painful. But what did he do?
He filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and the result was immediate. The moment the case was filed, the wage deduction stopped cold.
Just like that.
Just like that. And the story notes he was planning to use his upcoming tax refund to pay back the person who helped him with the filing costs, getting him that complete fresh start without losing any more wages.
So pulling this all together for listeners, what's the absolute key takeaway?
Urgency. Proactivity. Don't wait. Don't wait until you're actually sued. Don't wait until that deduction notice shows up at HR.
Yeah.
Definitely don't wait until you see the money missing from your pay.
The moment you get serious threats or notices about assignments or lawsuits, that's the time to explore options.
That's the time to act. Waiting just costs you money. Every paycheck that gets hit by a deduction or assignment before you file is money you likely won't get back. Filing bankruptcy sooner rather than later uses that automatic stay to protect your full earnings right away. It stops the damage before it gets worse.
So understanding the threat, is it a voluntary assignment you might have signed, a court-ordered deduction, or a heavier government levy? That's step one. And knowing the automatic stay is the immediate countermeasure is step two.
It really is the most powerful tool available to stop these actions across the board, enforced by federal law. It gives you back control.
Okay, so here's something to think about as we wrap up. We know the automatic stay provides immediate relief. So how much is that peace of mind actually worth? Compare that to the potential thousands you could lose by delaying action until money is actively being taken. And maybe think about this too. Beyond just paying debts, what could you do today to make sure you never fall into that voluntary trap of a wage assignment by, say, scrutinizing loan terms much more carefully? Just some food for thought.
Know your rights, understand the threats, and act decisively to protect your income.
Thank you for joining us for this exploration of the source material.